Next are the causes of irreversibility. Now I have told you about the reversible process, about Carnot cycle, a reversible cycle, and I also told you reversible process is something which can return from the same path. जो ऐसी process जो कि same path से return हो जाए, that process nothing but reversible process. Now why it should return from the same path? So I told you, suppose I am drawing this PV diagram. Okay, let's suppose we are having one process 1 2. Okay, now in the forward direction the work is done by the system, which is nothing but area under PV diagram. So this much work is done by the system. Now if this is returning from the different path, as I told you, obviously there will be net work done on the system which is done by the surrounding. That means the system will return to its original state, but the surrounding will not return to its original state. So for the process to be reversible, it is essential that the system and surrounding should return to the initial state, and for that it should follow the same path. First thing, this is the reversible process. And how can you consider some process as reversible or irreversible? Simple thing, if अगर किसी process को reverse करने में कोई work नहीं करना पड़ रहा है, then that is reversible process. And if while reversing certain process, if we have to do certain work from the surrounding, then that process is an irreversible process, as simple as that. Okay, now we will now look into the causes of irreversibility. So the very first causes is the very first cause is the lack of equilibrium. Lack of equilibrium. Okay, wherever there is lack of equilibrium, there is an irreversibility. I will give you one example. So the very first cause in this lack of equilibrium is, first is lack of temperature equilibrium. Lack of temperature equilibrium, that means whenever the heat is transferred through a finite temperature difference. Okay, let's suppose we are having a body which is at temperature T1, okay, and surrounding is at temperature T2. Obviously the heat will, the natural flow of heat is from high temperature to low temperature till the point it comes to temperature T2. Okay, now if I say that you have to return this this body should be returned to its original state of T1. Now what will you will have to do is you will have to do certain work, because the if you want to transfer heat from low temperature to high temperature, obviously there has to be certain work which should be done on the system. Okay, so without doing any work, this system cannot be bring back to its initial state. So this is an irreversible process. So wherever there is temperature disequilibrium, wherever there is heat transfer because of temperature difference, जहाँ पर temperature difference से heat transfer हो रही है, that process is nothing but the irreversible process. Now how can we assume a reversible process out of it? So heat transfer को हम reversible कैसे assume कर सकते हैं? So for that we will consider infinite number of reservoirs. This process should be very slow process, and this process should follow infinite number of equilibriums. The जितने भी point इसमें हमको मिलेंगे, all the points should be in equilibrium, individually should be in equilibrium, and for that it is essential that it should pass through infinite number of reservoir. इसको धीरे धीरे करके first we have bring it in contact with T1 minus del T1. Okay, थोड़ा सा temperature इसका decrease हुआ, then T1 minus 2 del T1, थोड़ा और टेम्परेचर डिक्रीज हुआ. लाइकवाइज इनफाइनाइट नंबर ऑफ रिजर्वायर से पास करते 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 फाइनली वी विल गेट टू द टेम्परेचर ऑफ दिस T2. ओके, सो दिस विल बी द रिवर्सिबल प्रोसेस. बट वेरेवर देर इज अ फाइनाइट टेम्परेचर डिफरेंस, वेरेवर देर इज हीट ट्रांसफर थ्रू द फाइनाइट टेम्परेचर डिफरेंस, वेरेवर देर इज लैक ऑफ टेम्परेचर इक्विलिब्रियम, देयर विल बी एन irreversibility. Getting this? So the very first reason is the lack of temperature equilibrium. Second is lack of pressure equilibrium. Lack of pressure equilibrium, same thing. Okay, let's suppose we have considered the piston cylinder arrangement, okay, with the weight on it. Okay, now if the inside pressure is greater than that of the outside pressure, if I am removing this weight suddenly, एक बार में अगर मैं remove करता हूँ, obviously this piston will travel from state 1 to state 2 till both the pressures are same. Okay, so this is because of pressure disequilibrium. ये pressure disequilibrium के कारण हुआ, lack of pressure equilibrium के कारण हुआ. Now if I want to bring back this piston to the original state, obviously I will have to do certain work on the system. That means this process is again an irreversible process, because उसको reverse करने के लिए हमको उस पर work करना पड़ रहा है. गेटिंग दिस? तो उसका सॉल्यूशन क्या है? उसको अगर हमको रिवर्सिबल प्रोसेस एज्यूम करना है तो उसके लिए मैंने क्या बताया था? फॉर क्वासी-स्टैटिक प्रोसेस वी व्हाट वी विल डू इज वी विल डिवाइड दिस इनटू इनफाइनाइट नंबर ऑफ पार्ट्स. द वेट वी विल डिवाइड इनटू इनफाइनाइट नंबर ऑफ पार्ट्स एंड वी आर रिमूविंग वन बाय वन पार्ट. एक पार्ट मैंने पहले हमने हटाया, फिर दूसरा पार्ट हटाया, लाइकवाइज धीरे धीरे करके हम जैसे जैसे रिमूव करेंगे, द प्रोसेस विल टेक इनफाइनाइट लॉन्ग टाइम एंड दैट प्रोसेस विल बी द रिवर्सिबल प्रोसेस. So because all such conditions are practically impossible, so attaining reversible process is practically impossible. Okay, so this is the second reason, lack of pressure equilibrium. Wherever there is lack of pressure equilibrium, there will be irreversibility. Okay, next third is free expansion. Free expansion is also an example of irreversible process. Free expansion means expansion against vacuum. This also we have seen, expansion against vacuum. That means suppose we are having a compartment, okay, where the pressure at one end is, let's suppose P1, and second end we are having the vacuum. If I am removing this partition, what will happen? This whole gas will fill up this whole volume, this complete volume, and this is again expansion. This is expansion against vacuum. This is also an irreversible process, क्योंकि उसको वापस हमको अगर इतने में confine करना है उस गैस को, we will have to do certain work on it. So for assuming the reversible process, we will divide this into infinite number of parts, and we will partitions, and we will remove the partition one by one, and obviously we will assume that the work done for removal is 0. So जैसे जैसे हम एक एक करके रिमूव करेंगे, धीरे धीरे इसका expansion होगा, and obviously this process will be a reversible process. ये जो expansion होगा, that will be reversible process. Okay, so 3 reasons we have seen because of lack of equilibrium. First is lack of temperature equilibrium. That means wherever the heat transfers through finite temperature difference, there will be irreversibility. Second is lack of pressure equilibrium. Wherever there is pressure difference, the body is moving because of pressure difference, there will be disequilibrium, okay, irreversibility. And third thing is free expansion. So because of free expansion, there will be the irreversibility. So this is the first reason, that is lack of equilibrium. Okay, second reason is the dissipative effect. Okay, और इसलिए the very first condition for the process to be reversible is that it should be the quasi-static process. Quasi-static process, as I told you, is very slow process, जो कि infinite number of stages में जो carry होगी, that is nothing but the quasi-static process. Getting this or not? Okay, so first reason was because of this lack of pressure, lack of equilibrium, and for this the process should be quasi-static. First thing. Second is because of dissipative effect. Now that this dissipative effect can be because of friction. Okay, because of friction. I gave you one example. Suppose if a body is moving on any rough path, obviously that kinetic energy is now converted to the heat energy. Now if I ask you to convert that heat energy to the kinetic energy of the block, it will not be possible. उसका reverse करना possible नहीं है, उसका forward direction बस possible है. That means जो भी उसकी kinetic energy थी, obviously energy is always conserved, but जो kinetic energy थी that is dissipated now. Okay, वो पूरी तरह से dissipate हो गई है, जिसको वापस recover करना हमारे लिए possible नहीं है in the form of again kinetic energy. Getting this not? Okay, so this is called as dissipative effect because of friction. Okay, similarly if you have seen the cycle brake shoe, okay, cycle हम चलाते हैं, we are pushing the brake lever, जैसे ही हम दबाते हैं that brake shoe जो रहता है wheel में, that presses against the rim. Okay, and because of that because of the friction, the rim will stop. That means the kinetic energy of the rim is converted to heat energy which is in the brake shoe. Now if I want to reverse this, if I ask you that convert this heat energy of the brake shoe to the kinetic energy of the rim, उसको वापस से घुमाओ उस heat energy को use करके, it will not be possible. That means जो energy थी वो dissipate हो गई है because of friction. Okay, so wherever there is dissipation of energy, there is an irreversibility. Okay, first thing. Second, pedal wheel work. Okay, pedal wheel work का भी मैंने example दिया था आप लोग को first law में. Okay, suppose we are having one steerer and which is rotated with the help of pulley. Okay, that means we are doing certain work, this work is dropped and this work is done on the system, and as a result temperature increases. Now if I am removing the insulation, that increase in energy will be converted to heat, but we cannot recover that heat into again work. उस heat को use करके वापस weight को raise करना अब possible नहीं है. That means that energy is now dissipated. Okay, so this is the second reason, that is also the reason for irreversibility because of pedal wheel work transfer. Okay, and third is transfer of electric energy. Okay, third reason is transfer of electricity through resistor. Okay, transfer of electricity through resistor. That means suppose if we are having a resistor and if the current is passing through this, Okay, that means we are doing certain work on the system. If the current is passing through this, that work will be converted to heat. Okay, now if I ask you to convert that heat completely into the work again, so it will not be possible, because now the heat is a higher grade of energy. Heat is a low grade of energy, and complete conversion of heat to work is not possible. That means some energy is dissipated there. Okay, so these are the reasons for dissipative effect. First is because of friction loss, second is because of pedal wheel loss, and third is whenever there is transfer of electricity through the resistor. So basically two reasons I told you for the irreversibility. First is lack of equilibrium, and second is dissipative effect. Now, in order to overcome lack of equilibrium, obviously the process should be quasi-static. Wherever there is quasi-static process, in quasi-static process all the points are in equilibrium, as I told you, and that is carried out in infinite number of stages. Okay, that's why the reversible process, all reversible process should necessarily be a quasi-static process, because this is the first reason for irreversibility. Okay, so first thing, the process should be quasi-static process, and second thing, very important thing, the process should be free from the dissipative effects. Okay, इसलिए that's why all the quasi-static processes are not reversible process. All reversible process has to be quasi-static process, but all quasi-static process cannot be the reversible process, may not be reversible process, because the energy may loss because of dissipative effect. Okay, so if there is no dissipative effect, only the quasi-static process without friction, ये हमने डिस्कस भी किया है. If we are having a quasi-static process without friction or without any dissipative effect, then only we can call it as a reversible process. Otherwise, it will be categorized as irreversible process. Now the question arises कि when reversible process in actual sense is not possible, practically it is not possible to achieve a completely reversible process. Then why do we study about such processes? और कार्नोट साइकिल के बारे में हम स्टडी क्यों करते हैं? When such processes are not possible, attaining such thing is not possible, then why should we waste our time in studying that? So just understand this thing students, ideal processes हम आखिर पढ़ते क्यों हैं? What is an ideal? हमारी लाइफ में ideal हम किसको बोलते हैं? Everyone has got their own ideal. You have got the ideal like स्वामी विवेकानंद, like महात्मा गांधी. हम इन लोगों को अपना ideal समझते हैं. Now that does not necessarily mean that कि हम भी उनकी तरह बन जाएंगे. But if we are having the ideal, we can at least follow the footsteps. जो भी हमारा ideal रहता है, whoever be the ideal of yours, okay, you can at least follow their footsteps to get near to that ideal. Getting the same thing. हम ideal के बारे में पढ़ते क्यों हैं? Because वहाँ तक पहुँचना भले ही possible नहीं है, but जिस situation से वहाँ तक पहुँचा गया है, we can at least attain those situation. For example, as I told you, quasi-static process मतलब which can be carried out in infinite number of stages. Infinite number of stages में जो process होगी, that is quasi-static process, and that is a reversible process if it is frictionless. Okay, so attaining infinite number of stages is not possible, for sure. But ये चीज़ हमको यहाँ से समझ में आ गई. If the process is carried out in number of stages, किसी एक process को अगर suppose मैं directly T1 से T2 में डायरेक्टली इसको हीट कर रहा हूँ, ऑब्वियसली द इरिवर्सिबिलिटी विल बी मोर, द प्रोसेस विल बी मोर इरिवर्सिबल, हीट लॉस विल बी, एनर्जी लॉस विल बी मोर. बट ऑन द अदर हैंड अगर मैं इसको बीच के तीन अलग अलग प्रोसेस से और फॉलो पास कर रहा हूँ, एंड देन आई एम डायरेक्टली गेटिंग टू द T2, तीन स्टेजेस से पास करते हुए फिर मैं T2 में आ रहा हूँ. सपोज T1 डैश, T1 डबल डैश एंड देन टू T2. That means I am increasing the number of stages. तो जितना ज़्यादा नंबर ऑफ स्टेजेस में बढ़ेंगे, ऑब्वियसली रिवर्स वो प्रोसेस उतनी ही ज़्यादा रिवर्सिबल की तरफ जाएगी, इरिवर्सिबिलिटी उस प्रोसेस में उतनी ही कम होगी. ये डिटेल में हम और देखेंगे अवेलेबिलिटी वाली, इरिवर्सिबिलिटी वाली यूनिट में. ओके, सो दिस इज द रीज़न वाई वी स्टडी अबाउट आइडियल प्रोसेसेस, बिकॉज वी ऑब्वियसली कैन नॉट अचीव दैट आइडियल प्रोसेस, बट एटलीस्ट वी कैन अचीव द कंडीशंस. जो कंडीशन आइडियल प्रोसेस के लिए ज़रूरी है, हम कुछ लेवल तक उन कंडीशंस को, एक चीज़ समझ में आ जाएगी कि हमारी प्रोसेस अगर उस सिचुएशन तक पहुंच पाती है, देन more or less we will get the reversible process and the irreversibility will be less, because irreversibility is ultimately the loss of energy. So obviously for any process it is essential that irreversibility should be as less as possible. Getting this or not? Okay, so these are all the reasons for this irreversibilities. You can write down one note: a process will be reversible when it is performed in such a way that the system is at all times infinitesimally near a state of thermodynamic equilibrium and in absence of dissipative effect of any form. Reversible processes are therefore purely ideal, limiting cases of actual processes. Next, coming to the improving the efficiency of Carnot cycle or reversible cycle. Now, how to improve the efficiency, on what factors does it depends. So, as we know, efficiency of Carnot cycle or reversible cycle is what? 1 minus T2 by T1. Okay, now how to improve this efficiency? So the first way is to decrease this T2 keeping T1 constant. If I am keeping T1 constant and if I am decreasing the temperature T2, so this T2 by T1 will be less, 1 minus T2 by T1 will be more, and efficiency will be more. First thing. Second thing, what we can do is we can increase the value of this T1. We can increase this T1 keeping T2 constant. Again, if I am increasing T1, T2 by T1 will be less, 1 minus T2 by T1 will be more, and efficiency will be more. So out of these two methods, which is more effective? That means increasing T1 keeping T2 constant should be more effective, or decreasing T2 keeping T1 constant is more effective. This we have to discuss. Obviously, more effective way compared to both of them is to decrease T2 as well as to increase T1. Okay, but out of this two, we will compare that whether to decrease T2 keeping T1 constant or to increase T1 keeping T2 constant, which way is more effective in order to increase the efficiency. Okay, so we will compare this. Now, what we can do is, if I am just understand this thing. So, suppose if I am plotting a graph between efficiency and temperature T1 and T2. Okay. Now, what we will have to do is, if I calculate the slope of both the expressions. Okay. First is decreasing T2 keeping T1 constant, second increasing T1 keeping T2 constant. If I calculate both the slopes, now whichever slope is higher, obviously that will have the more effect in efficiency. Okay, slope का मतलब क्या होता है? What is the slope? Suppose I am getting two different slopes. What is the meaning of this slope? Okay, and what is the meaning of the higher slopes? Slope means change in y axis with respect to x, dy by dx. Slope को हम क्या बोलते हैं? What is the slope? dy by dx. That means change in y with respect to x. ओके, डेट मीन्स अगर x के कम चेंज में y का ज़्यादा चेंज हो रहा है, ओके, डेट इज हैविंग मोर स्लोप. ओके, फॉर एग्जांपल इन दोनों में क्या होगा? सपोज इन दिस पर्टिकुलर केस, इफ आई एम टेकिंग दिस डिस्टेंस ऑफ dx, okay, so for this black curve I am getting this much dy, and for this blue curve I am getting this much dy. So obviously this dy is more for dx for both the curve, both the lines are same, but dy for this is more as compared to dy for this. That means the slope of this particular line is more as compared to slope of this particular line. Okay, तो अगर हम इन दोनों का स्लोप निकाल लेते हैं, then whichever slope is more, स्लोप ज़्यादा है, इसका मतलब कम टेम्परेचर चेंज करने पर उसकी एफिशिएंसी जो है वो ज़्यादा इंप्रूव हो रही है, ज़्यादा इंक्रीज हो रही है. Getting this not? Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just calculate this slope, and with that we will conclude this. Okay, now first is d eta by dt1 keeping T2 constant. Okay, we are first differentiating this d eta by dt1 keeping T2 constant. If T2 is kept constant, then what will be the value of this? So if T2 is kept constant, obviously this will be equal to this T2 is constant, this will be taken outside, T2 divided by d eta by dt1, this will be minus T1 square, and minus will be plus, so this will be T2 by T1 square. First thing. Second, d eta by dt2